heading out of Cairo to a site called Abu Sir, which most tourists never see and most tour companies never go to because it's not thought of as being significant. However, it's part of what the Commission people call the Wizard, which means the land of Osiris. So this site we're going to is one of the most ancient in all of Egypt. Older than the Pharaoh, older than the dynastic Egyptians. And it's at this site where we will see many examples of lost ancient high technology which most archaeologists dismiss or don't even recognize as existing, but which engineers such as Christopher Dunn have seen with their own eyes. We're going to see core drilling by high-speed drills. We'll see saw marks which could probably only have been done by machines. And that's what's intriguing about this whole Wizard area. So much evidence of lost ancient high technology thousands of years before it was presumed that technology of any form that we understand existed beyond that made with the human hand under human power.
These walls are made from basalt.
Wow.
And the gate is made from granite.
Right. Oh, here are hieroglyphs.
Yes.
So you think the hieroglyphs come later than the...
Yeah. This is not the ancient. It's beautiful though.
Oh, yeah.
But there is more ancient than that.
Oh, and this is the paint that was put on over top.
Same like here too.
Oh, yeah. These reeds are sharp enough to draw blood. This basalt surface is incredibly smooth and flat. You can see how flat that surface is. Basalt, very, very hard stone.
But let's take a walk on the causeway of this pyramid.
Okay, and there's Saqqara in the background.
Yeah, we're so close.
Oh, it's amazing.
And the Saqqara is not the...
So Yusuf Awiyan just pointed this out. Look at that difference. See the right side where the stone is broken, the left side where clearly it's been cut. And if you look carefully, the spacing in between each one of those striations is, at a guess, 2 to 3 millimeters. So that means every pass of the tool had to move into the stone by 2 to 3 millimeters. This stone is basalt, and you notice that there's a curve to the cut. So this could very well have been a circular saw, and if it was, it would have to have been somewhere in the order of minimum, one would guess, 5 meters across. So nobody in modern times is going to come here with a 5-meter diameter diamond saw and cut this stone. This looks like it's evidence of lost ancient high technology. And here, this could have been pounded by dolerite stone pounders to create that shape. You can see the bruise marks in the stone. There are so many core drill holes in this area that's what really intrigues me with Abu Sir. We see case after case of core drilling happening, most likely in the very, very distant past, because again, why would somebody come here in modern times with a massive core drill just to take a sample of the stone? So here we have black granite and more of these core drill holes. And you can see that clearly. You can see the striations, hopefully. There. And again, a ballpark guess is 2 to 3 millimeters per revolution. And here are my fingers to show you that these are not little things. These are big core drills going in at least as far as my hand goes in. And in this case we can't really see, but in other examples you can see that it's a drill which is hollow. It's only maybe 1/8 of an inch in diameter, or in the wall is about 1/8 of an inch boring through. And so I would guess, if we have any people watching this video that work with stone, but I would guess 2 to 3 millimeter per revolution boring into blackish granite would be a pretty fast speed, and definitely not something you're going to be doing by hand in ancient times. This I think is definitely an example of lost ancient high technology. Here at Abu Sir, sorry, in Egypt. So next to Abu Sir, we have a stone that's been quarried, but what's really quarried obviously after. Here you have casing stone. See the flatness of the surface? More casing stone here from what's left of pyramid. But what's very cool is this. You see that when they were quarrying this stone, they split right down through where an ancient core drill hole is. You can tell it's a core drill because look at, we can see the thickness of the wall of the tube drill that was used. Right next to it's another one, right there. Again, you can see where the core drill went into and where the core was broken off. And again, I don't know if you can see the detail, but around 2 to 3 millimeters is each turn or each cut of the core. Pretty amazing. They're more over in the distance there. We'll go check those out next. And also at Abu Ghurab we have this beautiful ancient limestone wall, which is very flat looking, at least to the eye, as you can see. And the original casing stones here of rose granite, of what's left of a pyramid, limestone core. And again, the rose granite comes from more than 500 miles away from Aswan. And some of the blocks are of the rose granite are many tons, as in 50 tons plus in some places, like at Gíze, which isn't too far from here, because all of these sites are very close together. The sites in the area known as Buwizr, which is the ancient term, pre-dynastic term for this area, as in before the pharaohs showed up, there was a very advanced civilization from which the pharaohs appropriated things like beautiful flat stone surfaces. The Cometians seem to be the people who had lost ancient high technology. Again, casing stones here, red granite, the rose red granite from Aswan. Here a beautiful shaped surface with hieroglyphs which were added later, probably by the dynastic Egyptians. But this is the most incredible thing. This is called the Hotep, and it is one single block of stone. You can see it has 4 points. Very crystalline stone. And also notice the layering. Notice how flat the layering is. This was clearly, I'm sure it was not a fluke, it was clearly selected for this horizontal layering. What we also see are these beautiful
shaped lines and curves. Very, very flat. They look like, okay, sorry, I thought it was one piece. It's actually 1, 2, 3, 4. But this is one single block here. And again, these beautiful, even, flat surfaces. And what's very cool is around here, what we'll see is a tube drill mark, which is right there. So it looks like a tube drill was definitely used to create this area, and then a different tool was used to create this area. And the continuity here is very, very smooth. It feels almost like, or maybe was, an ancient router device that cut that out, like that. Incredibly difficult to do by hand, possibly impossible to do by hand, and this centerpiece is absolutely magnificent. And across the way, these crystalline stone bowls, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. We'll go and have a look at those next. Here at Abu Ghurab, where most tourists don't go because nobody tells them about them. But Yusuf Awiyan, our guide over there, is the master of the area. His father was the master before him. His family line goes back probably thousands of years, maintaining this ancient pre-dynastic knowledge. And across from the Hotep, here we have these amazing bowls. 9 of them. Seemingly the same material as the Hotep. Notice all the curious knobs that are on them. And each one of these has a hole, one hole in it. Now it's said by some that these are sacrificial bowls, or were, for putting the blood of a bull in or something like that. But it's the precision of the hole and the fact that it's not very low down. If this was a drain plug, it would clearly be lower down, and it's not. It's less than, it looks like less than a third of the way down from the top. And just look at how well that was done. You can also see, hopefully, I'll turn on the light. You see inside, hopefully you can see where the tool actually skipped on the right hand side. You can see where the core drill moved out of a perfect pattern and dug in a little more than it needed to. That could mean that the tool was driven by hand, as in hand control, but clearly hard material like this, seemingly a perfectly round hole, these were not done by primitive workers with simple tools. This looks to me like high technology. And they were not originally found here. They were found around the pyramid Perneter. Perneter is the ancient name for pyramid. Pyramid itself being a name taken from the Greek. But they were found around that Perneter, and the archaeologists lined them up because supposedly they were going to at one time move them to the museum in Cairo maybe, but they just never got around to it. Quite incredible.
This isolation is built on one, it's like the same layer, the same depth, and it's after the stone was machined.
I'd say it's after it's been machined.
Yeah.
Then it's the weathering just.
And a lot of pressure can also
Yeah,
do
to
that.
see that. I mean,
Pop it off.
it feels a little stronger. You could probably pull it off just. With
Yeah,
your
yeah, I
fingers.
know.
So
That's
no,
how many
that's
of the
after.
items loses that surface. But you can also find it in a carving. Can this be happening by weathering? Yeah.
Over what kind of period of time?
Oh, thousands and thousands of years.
Thousands and thousands of years.
There you go. So here clearly we can see the difference of different types of quarrying, different types of tool marks. The inscriptions on the top are 19th dynasty. It's Ramses II. This is a metal chisel mark. So this comes from that time period. However, Chris Dunn, Hakim was the first to point this out, and Chris Dunn agreed. Look at these score marks. Look at these score marks. All over score marks. Diamond tools. This was, when they originally cut the stone, this here is the quarried stone, these were blocks they were going to use, and then they use, as Chris says, a facing tool to even it out with diamond tips, and this is the marks. Hakim pointed this out clearly as diamond tool marks. And geologists, we'll have our geologists come, they've agreed.
So this is the actual quarry where the second pyramid, that one, some of its blocks came from here. The question is, how were those blocks removed from this solid wall? What kind of technology was involved? A bunch of slaves hacking away? Are those hand tool marks or machine marks? And what about this thing?
The Egyptians used hammers. They are calling gods, so they call the knitter gods. And then in the Middle Ages and the beginning of the 18th, 19th century, the early British and French, they put their own background also, because their technology was very simple at the time, so they couldn't imagine that there is other technology can do this. So they stuck with the primitive tools. But nowadays we may have better chance that we have higher technology, but because of that technology we feel how difficult to do this with our technology nowadays. That's why I say if we Egyptologists will try to explain it again, to refix this, I think they're going to come out with better stories.
21st century. This is what's known as a granite ashlar. It's broken, obviously broken off. This is one of the things Chris Dunn immediately came to. He had another one that's sort of, it was like a couch that he put in his first book, and I thought he meant this one. So we're on the plateau one day and we're walking, and I said, I'm going to your finished stone. He said, no, you're not. You're going the wrong way. And I came to this, oh, this one is better than the one he had. It's a perfect radius, all the way down, all the way. He's measured this completely, never deviates. But what's interesting to understand about this is just a piece. What you have here is a granite wall. I mean, a limestone wall. This is a limestone bedrock. Look at these stones, some 200 tons at least. Look at the erosion. This is very, very old. This is where Robert Schoch came, and he said this erosion could be 100,000 years old. This is very, very old. So what we had, this is very ancient, and it got so eroded, then they cut granite. And they placed the granite over it, because we know that this had covered this. And these are just pieces. So this was, and this is upside down. We have one in the front there that's right side up, that has perfect flat top. So this whole wall was covered with this granite.
And also the interior is granite.
Yes.
The core is limestone, the
Yes.
exterior is granite.
Yes.
So you have two materials.
Exactly.
Again, it's not like these were like simply put on. They had to interlock.
Right.
The same as the pyramids. And the amount of effort that would take to custom fit. This is in the Valley Temple. You're looking at pink S1 granite. This is the beginning of this stone.
There was a door stopper.
Goes around the corner.
And if you look up there, you see the circle? You see the circle? Perfectly circled.
And the Egyptian door, Anthony, used to be locked up, not to the
All the
side.
way.
Exactly.
The look was going up.
Right.
Around the corner.
That's where the hole is. You see the circular hole up there, Brian?
And this is the joinery, just like we see in the Coricancha in Peru. You're talking technically a perfect fit. Look at that. So again, behind the head of the Sphinx are a series of these incredible shafts, more than 10 feet across, 10 feet wide, and at present at least 60 feet deep but filled with sand, so originally they would have been much, much deeper and they would have carried water. The vertical shafts connecting with horizontal tunnels that carried water. According to Yusuf, this is of course, the causeway that goes to the second pyramid, and the water traveled through these horizontal systems of tunnels, carrying the water to the Great Pyramid and the others to generate electricity. The pyramids split water into hydrogen and oxygen. And so that's why there are the chambers inside the pyramids. They weren't burial places. They were places where electrical generation happened. In the base, the water came, was split, and traveled up through the galleries and shafts up. And for more information, check out Chris Dunn's Gíze power plant. This is the causeway leading from the Sphinx Temple, Valley Temple, up to the second pyramid here. And this causeway is megalithic limestone. Massive blocks of, in general, tonnage. And as Yusuf has told me, it was probably originally had an outer layer of either limestone or maybe even granite, because you wouldn't tend to want to make a surface like this that is going to be used for people or animals or whatever to move on out of limestone. Limestone's quite soft. Granite's super hard. And again, the causeway, and what most people don't know, is that under the surface of the causeway are a series of chambers, and these are tunnels that lead down possibly to the great tunnel that travels from beyond the Sphinx up and into the lower parts of the second pyramid, so-called Khafre's pyramid. So the series of shafts, tunnels, here in between the Sphinx and the second pyramid is incredibly massive, far more massive than most people know. And they weren't all made for the burial of people. It's more likely that a lot of the tombs here in this area were actually inherited by the later cultures. Sorry?
So that they were reused as tombs.
Right.
What I believe is that these shafts and tunnels and chambers, that 3 levels, let's take the Osirian shaft for example, is part of the original construction of the pyramid. But then later it was divided. This was for something, this was understood for something else. And the priest used some of these chambers to be tombs. That's the transformation. They were not originally built to be tombs, but they were used later to be tombs, and then archaeologists would come and find it as a tomb. Then he would thought that the original purpose of it was that it was made to be a tomb. This is the mistake.
Right. So the problem, as Yusuf has just said, is that if you presuppose that the dynastic Egyptians were the first ones here doing any kind of major work, then you would confuse this work with that. That is, in a lot of cases, like huge multi-ton blocks. This is reconstruction, but the work of the dynastic period, as Yusuf has pointed out, are blocks which one person could pick up, one person could shape. But that's not to say nothing, but that is very simplistic work as compared to the construction of the 2.3 million blocks that make up the Great Pyramid, almost the same number making up the second pyramid, and a lot making up the third pyramid. So prior to the dynastic Egyptians were the Cometians, and the Cometians were the great builders, evidenced here by being able to hew into the solid living limestone.
You can see here how this resonance chamber works. This is the well where the sound of the water was coming from, and here would be front of it the false door. So the false door used to interact in that chamber with the sound. Can you hear that?
Oh yeah.
Yes, it's still resonating, but not in any other part of the chamber. Not here. Doesn't.
No.
But here, if the sound, if the running water from underneath created sound, the sound was going to come up from here and interact or be regulated to the resonance level through what we know as the false door. And that's what possibly generated the resonance, which was also needed, sound.
So again, here is the middle pyramid, and we're in an area that has these incredible shafts. These have nothing to do with digging burials for people. Look at the size of that. That has to be 15 feet across, more than 15 feet from front to back, and this channel in it. And it's not isolated. There are numerous vertical shafts here and throughout this whole area. And from what Yusuf has told me, you can find these shafts all through the strip of land called Bu Wizir, which is the most ancient part of the pre-dynastic culture here, the Cometians. And again, we're talking about vertical shafts, in many cases interacting with horizontal systems of tunnels carrying water, and not just water for irrigation, water to fuel these ancient power plants. So we're in the living bedrock now, or maybe not. These could actually be massive. Oh, this is megalithic rock? Okay, so this is the bedrock. The cracks that I thought were joints actually are fissures and cracks in the stone, but still. You see this, again, this is the Gíze Plateau. And anywhere you find a shaft or the tunnel entrance, of course, you find a locked door. As Yusuf...
From the writings that exist here, we know that this part was transformed into a tomb.
Right. So the hieroglyphics are later, and this was converted into a tomb, but its original function was not that of a tomb. But quite possibly part of the water carrying system that was the, or for resonance.
Yes, especially the higher ones could be more for resonance than water. Then look, here's the shaft leading to two, one from up, and then if you stood up a little, you're going to see that there is a chamber down here. So there are chambers, shafts, tunnels, chambers, like that.
How many levels do you think there
At least
are?
three.
3 levels
At least.
of tunnel systems.